Man, I tell you, all of my life I played football, and you mean they're gonna pay me for something I love to do?
He had great moves, great vision.
Y'all probably have heard that he slept with a football. That is not a myth, that is the truth.
Something extraordinary. When you were 5, you started sleeping with a football?
Yeah, and holding it, as I went to sleep.
Your younger brother, LeVar, said that ball would lie in your arms like a girlfriend.
Yeah. And
you kept on holding it for 15 years, I understand.
Yes, I did.
It's a lot longer than most marriages.
Yeah, yeah.
LaTorsha told us that football is finally out of the bed, but not out of the bedroom.
Still to this day, it's in between the nightstand and the bed. Here's the bed, here's the nightstand, there's the football on the floor.
You're going to be a football player when you grow up.
Today is the best day of your life. Believe me.
It's a day like this. That's all I need.
Rest of your life. Nobody could ever tell you that you couldn't do it.
I've seen trained monkeys, donkeys, elephants, big old tigers and lions. I said, you've never seen a trained jackrabbit. And I said, you're like a jackrabbit. When you get the ball, you don't know where you're going.
That's insane. That is, that's off the chart. He is driving them crazy.
A putt that only few have ever been able to make.
When LaDainian was 4 years old, Sundays were spent watching football with Dad.
What he used to do all the time to make sure I paid attention and to kind of quiz me on the rules and what's going on in football, he would leave the room, for about 10 minutes at a time sometimes, and come back and ask me what happened.
LaDainian would often recount the actions of a certain running back.
You had this guy, Walter Payton, very tough, physical, but also had the movement and wasn't a very big guy. I wasn't a very big guy. Once Walter retired, Emmett took over that role, being the running back that I looked up to and I followed.
When he was 13, he had his heart set on attending a Cowboys football camp.
Right away, Mom said, boy, LaDainian, I don't know about this. You're going to have to stay in dorms. You're going to be gone for 3 days or whatnot. And look how much money it costs. I said, Mom, I need this. This is what I've been waiting for.
LaDainian is one of those rare kids that he doesn't ask for anything. And so when you look at him asking and he's so joyful about it, you're going to work every way possible to do whatever you can to get that dream for him.
I remember I wanted to go. Of course, I want to do everything he did, but he got to go.
During a handoff drill, a surprise visitor made an appearance.
Emmitt Smith just jumps in the line and happens to be handing the ball off to me. Out of all the kids that's in the line, he happened to be handing the ball off to me. I remember the kids were going crazy. I mean, we was fighting. They was trying to get in front of me so they could take a handoff from Emmett. And I was like, no, this is my spot. I'm taking the handoff. Later on that day, I'm leaving the dorm room to go upstairs. Emmitt Smith is coming down the stairs, and he almost runs me over. Holds me up, keeps me from falling. Kid, you all right? Oh, yes, sir. I'm great. I said, hey, kid, you got some talent, you got some speed, keep working hard. And I was like, yes, sir, yes, sir.
He was one of those kids that you just cannot ignore. He was one of those kids that you sit back and like, wow, man, this boy here, you keep it up, you're gonna be something someday.
That experience alone changed my life because it gave me confidence in myself, it gave me belief.
In high school, as a freshman, where you're put in a one-on-one drill against the star senior linebacker?
I think it was a defining moment, a confidence booster, if you will. Because I heard people talk about, man, this kid, is really talented. And the coach at the time was trying to put me on varsities, and I'm like, I'm a freshman. I don't want to play varsity. I want to play with my classmates that I came into high school with. No, you're good enough to play varsity. Really? I am? And so I guess the whole time I'm thinking, why am I up here on varsity? Why? And During that drill was, I guess, when I said, okay, maybe that's the reason. Because this guy was the starting linebacker. He was all district, and coach put me up against him. He said, you guys go head to head. And I ran him over. I totally ran him over.
Tomlinson would be relegated to the fullback and linebacker positions until his senior year.
You needed to earn the right to carry the football. And so for me, I had to block first. I had to block for the older guys that came before me. Finally, I remember my high school coach going into my senior year, calling me into the coach's office and said, hey, you have done everything that we asked you to do, son. You've been a selfless teammate, and this year, it's gonna be your year.
But before the season arrived, his mom announced they were moving 2 hours away.
Mom, no way, you can't do this to me right now, Mom. I said, Mom, if I want to have a chance to go to college, I need to stay at this high school. This is my best chance to show people what I can do, to show the scouts what I can do.
He begged me, because I was all set to take him with. There was no way I was leaving him behind. I looked at him and I go, you know what? This kid has never, ever, ever caused me any problems. So I said, okay, Dan. I said, okay, but I'll be down for every football game. He said, I know, and he hugged me. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, thank you.
LaDainian stayed behind and lived with the family of one of his teammates. In his first game starting at running back for University High, he scored 6 touchdowns.
He didn't have a whole lot of teams that was recruiting him. Well, he's not quite the size that we're looking for. Well, you know, he doesn't quite have that 40 time that we're looking for.
On the field, LaDainian refused to be brought down.
I heard it all. I heard that, you know, I was too small and wasn't fast enough and everything that go in between. When I was playing in high school, I remember I used to hear things from parents about, you know, I was too small to play that position, and even if, you know, I was successful in high school, I never would make it in college. I just didn't have the skills to make it in college. And so I heard it all, and you know, it definitely was motivating because, you know, as an athlete, that's what drives you, is the people saying you can't do something, you can't do something, and you want to prove them wrong.
Offers came from programs around the country, but LT would choose to play college ball close to home.
He had quite a few letters. He flew out to some of the teams, some of the colleges and things, but when he came home, you know, I just believe he had Texas into his heart. So, because the last 2, he came down to North Texas and TCU, and so he chose TCU.
Went there as really a young man and honestly a kid. You know, a kid going into college not knowing what to expect. I remember initially winning the running back job my sophomore year, and my college coach called me in the office. He said, I'm sorry to do this to you, but the fullbacks are not playing very well on this team right now, and I think you can play fullback for us for a little while. And he asked me to move to fullback. And so I started out my sophomore year starting at fullback. Half the season go by, and I've had enough of fullback. And I go into a coach's office, I said, Coach, I'm sorry, I'm transferring. I got to get the heck out of here. I can't play fullback. And he said, well, I'm glad you came in because we're gonna put you back at tailback. You're not gonna play fullback anymore. And so from that point on, I stayed at tailback the rest of my 2.5 years, led the nation in rushing my junior and senior year.
LaDainian would have the attention of the entire country.
And they'll give it to him again on a draw play. With records on the line, I hand it to him and a hold. 45, 40, 35, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, TCU. 38 carries, 379 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
All I remember is Coach grabbed me. He said, you know, you need like 4 yards to get the national record. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, do you want to get it? I said, Coach, that's not important to me. We got the win. He said, no, you go get it.
Here's the handoff. Here's LaDainian. Breaks left. Has the yardage down to the 20, maybe the 19, and that should be a record-setting carry for LaDainian Tomlinson.
But it put me at like, I don't know, like 398 or something. They was like, you're about to get 400 yards. No one has ever done that before. Give it to him again.
Well, I think everybody in the house knows who's going to get the ball. Patel hands off to LT. LT inside the 10 to the 5. He has broken not only the single game NCAA record, but has broken the 400-yard barrier. And the whole team is gathered around LaDainian Tomlinson.
Coming out of college, you had a report commission that would basically project where you'd go in the NFL if you decided to come out early. How frustrating were the results of that report for you?
Well, it was a shock to my system. You know, it was really, you know, eye-opening to, you know, they was projecting me to go 3rd round, you know, and I felt like, looking at, for one, I felt like the things that I had just done, you know, I know it was my first year starting, but I led the nation in rushing over a guy, you know, in Ron Dane, who was projected to go 1st round, you know, and I was going to go 3rd round. So in other words, they was telling me that there was 15 other running backs at the time that was better than I was. And so, you know, it just motivated me more than anything. I mean,
And largely because of where you went to school, you think?
Right,
okay.
Absolutely. You know, because I went to TCU and I didn't get much exposure.
Right.
You know, we wasn't a national, you know, program, a dominant program. Or the big schools, Texas, you know, Oklahoma, these teams didn't take a look at me because really they didn't know who I was. Teams, you know, in college, they already have they picks. Going into the senior year, they already target the guys they know they want to offer scholarships to. And at that point, it's all about just monitoring how well they do their senior year. Well, I wasn't on these guys' radar, you know, and so I didn't get the opportunity. And so, you know, but going back, it was the same thing, but it, you know, it motivated me for my senior year in college. I put that stat up on the wall, you know, what they were, you know, what the scouts were saying about me, my strengths, my weaknesses, where I was projected. I put it up on my wall in my room. I looked at it every day. And as I went out the room, you know, going for the day, going to school and practice, I would look at it, and it was instilled in my mind. And another thing I used to do, you know, I used to tape my wrist, and I used to write underrated on it, you know, so I can always see that, you know, during the game. And the other one I would write, feed the family, you know. And so things like that just, I think it drove me and motivated me.
We feel that greatness was in him way before he became famous.
He's not short, but he's stocky and he's powerful, and so you think once he gets on the edge, you think that you're always going to catch him, but you don't.
LT stands for something that I think a lot of people feel like we're losing.
I've been around football players, basketball, baseball, every sport possible. And still to this day, I've never seen anyone that has that work ethic that he does.
Here's what it takes to be a superstar.
11:20, 12:30, 12:40.
His training routine is so secret that he'd only let us see part of it. But it's no secret that nobody works out harder.
They say that each time you play a game is like being in a car wreck. And so that's 20 car wrecks in 1 year. I have to prepare my body for that type of abuse.
Quick, baby, quick.
And notice that he often does two things at once, because he's not just training his body, he's also training his mind.
Come on. If you want to play the game, you play with LT. If you want to play the game, you train like LT. 'Cause it's so hard to be the best. You don't want to train like all the rest. Electric blood.
What up,
Kimbo. My man. What's going on? This your boy Kimbo Slice. And you are in my backyard. Who we got here is LT. Now we're getting ready to show y'all the reason why he is the man in the league. Check this out.
This is the old school way, back in the day when we didn't have nothing. This is what we used to do, taking y'all back. Let's go.
Let's go. Come on. One. Come on. Come on. Come on. One more. Good stuff. Right there.
Let's go. Let's go.
Nice. Good footwork. Good coordination. Are you ready to duck? Yep. Duck. Nice. You got this.
Put some weight on it.
You can do this.
I can do this all day.
This is my little sister's car. You can do it. Only 2,000 pounds. Come on, you got it. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, LT, what we gonna do here, baby, we want some explosion, okay? You gotta explode into this thing. Let's create some power. All right. Let's see some power. You ready?
I'm ready,
You
baby.
ready? Let's do this. Let's go. Come on, baby. Come on. That's what I'm talking about.
Let's go.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
Let's go.
After a stellar collegiate career at Texas Christian University, LaDainian Tomlinson looked to the next chapter of his boyhood dream of making the NFL. Many experts believed he was the top running back in the 2001 draft.
Going into the draft, I was rated like the third running back. You go through all these pre-workouts, and I rose on the top of the board after my workouts.
The Chargers had the first pick, and the consensus number one was quarterback Michael Vick from Virginia Tech. Perhaps it was fate, stepping in to help LT to the Chargers.
When we got to the draft, Michael Vick came to me and said, we're not going to get a deal done with the Chargers. They're going to trade the pick and the Chargers are going to draft you. Now, I didn't talk to the Chargers the whole pre-draft process. I've never had a conversation with the Chargers, so I'm thinking, Michael Vick, you're right, you're full of it.
We traded back, and he came into me on Friday night and said we made a trade. And I said, well, where are we at? He said, number 5. And I said, well, what do you think? He said, well, you never know for sure. There's this running back out of TCU that he said, he's special. That's the word John Butler used to describe LT, special. And he said, if we can get him, he's going to make a difference on our team.
Across the ticker reads, Chargers trade first pick to the Atlanta Falcons. And I stood up in my bed thinking, holy cow, I think I'm going to San Diego.
With the Chargers on the clock with the 5th pick, LT's dream of playing football in the NFL came true.
And the phone rings, and it's the late John Butler. And he said, LaDainian, he said, we're going to draft you here. And he said, we're looking forward to having you with the Chargers. And he put on the head coach and running back coach and the owner, Dean Spanos, and at that time I knew it was for real, and it was on from there.
Where we said, wouldn't that be something if we played a high school all-star game together? Here we are at the Heisman together. If we played in the NFL together. Sure enough, a few months later, LT goes in the first round, I go in the second round at the San Diego Chargers, and the Chargers were 1-15 the year before.
We made a pact to each other that we will bring a championship to San Diego.
What's your first memory of coming into the National Football League?
Yeah, so my mom came my first mini camp. Get to the first practice, and we don't got on pads or anything. It's shorts, shells, helmets. And the first play, I'm supposed to block Junior Seau.
I cause havoc. Whether it's a receiver, a running back, or an offensive lineman, you're definitely going to have to deal with Junior.
Soon as the snap came, Junior comes right through the A-gap. And so I got to try to avoid the quarterback. And I'm thinking, all right, we don't have on pads. So I'm going to fit him up. Just kind of put my hands on him. And Junior ran through me. He knocked me back and just kind of looked at me. It's like, yeah, first-round rookie, we'll see. And so Coach said, get back in there. We're doing the same play. And I'm like, why are we doing the same play? This man is crazy over there.
Exactly.
And so, same play, Junior's doing it again. And I said, okay, I gotta earn my respect right here. And so as soon as the snap came, I mean, I went full speed at joint, and I lunged into him. And I know I got him. You know, great collision, and I earned his respect. After that, he kind of said, you're gonna be okay.
Tomlinson made an immediate impact. In his rookie season, LT ran for over 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns.
You know, obviously his ability on the field speaks for itself. It's incredible. His work ethic and everything he did in the locker room and how he performed on the field set a basis and something that, you know, our players, other players could look at.
Tomlinson's first NFL quarterback would not be Drew Brees, but Doug Flutie, who played with Tomlinson's boyhood idol, Walter Payton.
He really reminded me day one of Walter Payton. He had the ability to throw the football, which Walter could do. His ability to run routes and catch the ball. Third down pass protections, he knew what was going on. His work ethic.
I have a visual in my mind of Walter running that hill with the Ruse headband on. When I built my house in San Diego, I built the hill in the backyard.
Tomlinson was intent on taking the Chargers to the top. When Drew Brees took over as quarterback, that goal appeared in reach.
In his second and third years, he combined for over 3,300 yards and 27 scores.
Plows his way towards the goal line, keeps on moving. There he is! Touchdown, LT!
In 2003, Tomlinson became the first player to rush for 1,000 yards and catch 100 passes. In 2004, the Chargers won their first division title in a decade.
By the time we got to 2005, I think we all felt like we were right there on the cusp.
In the final game of the season, Brees tore his shoulder. A contract dispute followed, and Brees never played for the Chargers again.
That dream that we had established together in 2001 was gone.
I was hurt, confused, but I knew we had a young first-round quarterback in Phillip Rivers.
And he pulled another trick out of his sleeve.
A little pitch back to LT. He's looking to throw towards the end zone. Gates got it! Touchdown!
He could throw the football.
LT doing it all. Is there anything LT cannot do?
In 2005, he became just the 7th player to ever run, catch, and throw a touchdown in one game. But bigger things were still yet to come from the Texan the following season.
Right, wrong, or otherwise, you have favorites. LaDainian Tomlinson was a favorite for me. I loved him like he was my own.
Marty would say, LaDainian, I need you not to be good today. I need you to be great.
He said, power, football is what I want. We're going to wear people down, and you're going to be the guy to do it.
Tomlinson began to resemble the player who inspired him at a football camp, Emmitt Smith. Especially when it came to scoring touchdowns.
How sweet it is.
How sweet it is, huh? How sweet it is.
When you got the ball inside the 2-yard line, everybody in the stands knew what you were going to do with it.
You knew the LT chants were going to start, and he was going to get in there.
In 2006, Tomlinson would win league MVP and challenge the single-season touchdown mark, once held by Smith.
LaDainian Tomlinson, Mr. Everything, is in today with 26 touchdowns. The record for one season is 28.
I really didn't think that I was going to break it that day.
With 4 minutes left, Tomlinson was one touchdown away from tying the record.
LaDainian Tomlinson, one step closer to football immortality.
All the guys were saying, let's get it. Let's get the record.
You've got the ball back at the 7, but hey, you've already seen the record tied. You've got a chance to see it broken right now.
I said, guys, we're gonna all be old one day. When we look back on this clip, I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about us.
I was crying in the huddle just because I knew we were about to do something. I had tears in my eyes snapping. I was like, oh God, don't mess this snap up.
And I'm like, all right, LT, I said, get on my hip and don't dip. Let's go. We're going to score this touchdown. I'm like, this is going to be great. I get to lead LTN. I'm going to be on NFL Network. This is going to be great.
The play is designed to go straight up the middle.
I see the safety. I'm going to go blow this guy up. I trip. I fall.
So what did I do? I bounced it.
Skirts it outside, into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
I remember the offensive line.
That's why you're the greatest. That's why you're the greatest.
The joy they had picking him up, and just everybody felt a part in it.
The great number 21, as humble as the day is long, celebrated with all of his teammates in the end zone. There was no spotlight dance.
Pointing to the guys, pointing to the crowd. It wasn't about him. And that's why guys loved him.
You did it!
How many touchdowns he had that year? Was it 26? 31 touchdowns? 31 touchdowns in one season? It's a crazy number.
Watching each milestone, you know, as he broke each record after each record, it was incredible. It was almost surreal because it was like, what record did he break now? And are you kidding me? And it was just like one after the other.
In addition to his MVP honors, LT was given the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award for his excellence in charitable giving and volunteering in the community, showing LaDainian cared for more than just football.
Off the field, he was equal. He was equal to what he did on the field. His community involvement, how he cares about people in general, and what he wants to do about it. I mean, this is a man who gets engaged in the community.
Who we have here?
No player puts more time into more projects for more people. 2 days before Thanksgiving, he gives 2,000 families enough food to make Thanksgiving dinners.
Anybody want an alien racer? Anybody? Anybody? This is football.
He visits children in hospitals, offering presents and personal attention.
Here you go, my princess.
So when you go to hospitals and hand out all those toys,
This bear need a home.
who enjoys that more, the kids or you?
I think definitely me. Definitely me. They're so grateful, you know, to be getting toys. You can't help but to enjoy yourself.
He has his own charity golf tournament, gives $1,000 college scholarships to seniors at his old high school, and he hands out dozens of bikes and hundreds of shoes to underprivileged kids in San Diego. What's more important, what you do on the field or what you do off the field?
I think definitely what I do off the field. People may remember something I did on the field for a couple of days, maybe a week, but the things that I do and we do in the community is something that people remember for the rest of their lives because they're touched by it.
Since he couldn't afford to go to NFL games as a child, he buys tickets for 21 kids to every home game. 21 is his jersey number, and again, he gives them his time. After the game, he comes back on the field to greet each of them, sign autographs, and pose for pictures.
It's a full circle from being that kid and now being the guy that these kids look up to now. When I see their smile, I remember how I felt at their age.
And at their age, LaDainian went to a football camp run by Dallas Cowboys running back Emmitt Smith. LT told us that getting a handoff from Smith changed his life.
A hero, somebody I looked up to, you know, was actually handing the ball off to me in a drill. Yeah, I kind of took it as a sign, you know. It was kind of a sign of things to come.
Say hi. There you go.
Now he's handing that same experience to hundreds of mostly disadvantaged kids at 3 summer camps he's opened in San Diego, Fort Worth, and Waco.
Camp LT! Camp LT! Camp LT!
left arm up.
He's out there with them every day, teaching football and more.
Hard work pays off, guys. And that's why I am where I am today. 1, 2, 3. Good job. Let's go.
This is no ordinary football camp.
I'm excited. Each year I come here.
Ben, football position.
Because I get to see people get better.
Set.
It may be backed by a superstar, but it doesn't have a celebrity price tag.
Hard work. Hands up. Hard work. Hands up.
There's certain times where, and in certain areas where there need to be a free camp, you know, for kids. You can reach so many kids in this area, and you know, a lot of them may not have the money to pay for a camp.
Bring it up here. Bring it up here.
So Chargers running back LaDainian Tomlinson paves the way through Tomlinson's Touching Lives Foundation.
When you have a platform and you reach a certain level of success, I just believe that the only, you know, true way to give back is through the community.
What a great cause that we're all out here on such a glorious day.
The day before kids packed the football field, celebrities came out to support Tomlinson's 7th annual golf tournament. And you can bet his Charger teammates were on hand to unite for his passion to serve the community.
And there isn't anybody that does this more for it than LaDainian, and this will be my 6th here with the Chargers, and he's a great teammate, a great person.
He's absolutely one of the best guys I've ever been around, and probably one of the best guys I've ever played football with, and probably one of the best that I will ever play football with. He's really humble, and you know, he's a great guy, and I'm really glad that everything got settled down. He's able to stay here for one more year.
This offseason, the popular running back in the Chargers organization experienced a setback after 2 consecutive seasons of ending injured during the playoffs. A team that needed to make room in their salary cap went after renegotiations with the NFL star's existing contract. But number 21 was not ready to leave San Diego, and not just because of the Chargers.
Things that you do in the community sometimes balances you out. So the emotion that you have, that you're going through, whether it's a contract or whatever, you know, the people that you're involved with in the community, you know, the love that you have for them and the love that they have for you, sometimes, you know, keeps you humble and says, you know what, I still got too much to do here.
It's no secret the former TCU star came to the NFL in search of a Super Bowl ring. Through 8 NFL seasons, that remains the focus. He's also chasing a title with 126 rushing touchdowns. Sitting second all-time in the NFL, LT needs 39 more scores to surpass his childhood mentor.
Emmitt Smith, he gave me the inspiration as a young kid when I was in junior high going to his football camp. You know, it gave me the inspiration and the positive, you know, hope and motivation that I needed to be successful.
The most important part of his team is LT's partner in the community, his wife LaTorsha. As the saying goes, behind every great man is a woman.
She's the brains behind the operation. I like to say a lot of times when, you know, a lot of people see what I do, but, you know, they don't know that Torsha actually, you know, sometimes come up with the idea of certain things that, you know, that I should do. For example, the scholarship program, you know, that was kind of her idea. And so that's just how she is.
He always said that if he ever made it, he wanted to give back, and it kind of was just a no-brainer just to come up with some ideas of ways to get the kids involved and the youth and the inner city and all of that.
It's easy for people on the outside to kind of take what he does for granted, thinking, oh, this guy's a superstar, but he doesn't have to do this. He doesn't have to give his time, not only for this event, for all the other events that he does, and this is something he does out of the kindness of his heart.
It's gonna make you feel so much better later on in life, you know, when you know that you've helped somebody be successful.
When Tomlinson's father passed away 2 years ago, he left him with words of wisdom, preparing the face of the NFL to practice his own philosophy for future generations of the game when his time is complete.
Humility and humbleness is something that is very important. To me, all glory at some point flees, you know, it goes away. And, you know, you here one day and gone tomorrow. And, you know, it was like that with my dad, you know, the impact he had on me and, you know, the words and stuff that he left me. I think that's what's most important. And sometimes, you know, we can get lost in thinking about our own success and the things that we want to accomplish in life, but there's always, you know, room for looking back and helping others. and that's our responsibility.
LT's commitment to helping others has become his trademark.
Working with kids and working in the community has been something that has always been dear to my heart. So that's why, I have the football camps. My wife and I, we give our scholarships to kids to go to college. We have turkey drives. We have a toy drive at Christmas time. We also we bring different groups, whether it's Star Pal, the homeless shelter. We bring them to the games. These kids wouldn't get a chance to see an NFL game, and they have a chance to come to a game. And we also give them like little treats. They get a hot dog and a soda or something at the game. Then they get school supplies, maybe even a video game. And so we just try to do little things like that to help kids.
For LaDainian, it's not so much what I have done, but rather what more can I do?
I always can do more, I guess. I always feel like I can do more, and even though it is a lot of demand on my time, I just feel like, if I can just touch someone, that needs help at a critical time in their life, then I'm doing something right. At the end of the day, it's our actions that really we're defined by, right? And so, because when you're motivated just within, no one has to tell you to get up and go chase that dream. No one has to get up and tell you to go find a homeless man and take him to lunch, because you're motivated from the inner part of your soul to keep going, and knowing in your heart that there's something better for me. It's hard to inspire people sometimes when they're depressed and down and they feel like there's nowhere to go. But what I've always done is told them my story of my struggles, and just to be honest, everyone has a struggle. Everyone does. No one is perfect, but the spirit in us, it shouldn't allow us to quit ever. It just shouldn't. No matter the adversity that you go through at home or in the community, the challenges of growing up in a low-income family, mentally you can't be broken. If you don't take care of your community, no one else will. Didn't have a lot of money. We always help people in our community. My own mom would take in kids that didn't have a place to stay. I grew up seeing us, go taking food to our neighbor, just because they were struggling at that time. I wasn't the type of person to look in the past. I always looked ahead of me. I believe that's why I stayed so grounded, and I stayed looking forward to the next challenge. I come from humble beginnings, small country town, Marlin, Texas. One road brings you into the town, and that same road takes you out of the town. But I was always taught, by my mom that you're no better than anyone else. I don't care what you can do, how talented you are. You're not the only one that has ever had to make it through that struggle. Not having my father in the household and not seeing him for years upon a time, at one stretch when I was a kid, struggling with acceptance from my father, being depressed about it and wondering, do he love me? But you know what? That story has been told before.
LaDainian grew up idolizing Walter Payton as a child, so it's only fitting that the two of them share a special bond, despite the fact that they never met face to face.
To win the award, to have that trophy at my house, it really is something that I'm really proud of. I mean, I will hold on to that for a long time. And the other thing is, I can say that Walter Payton and myself are the only two guys to ever win that trophy and the MVP in the same year.
LT's love for the game, coupled with his huge commitment to sacrifice, has elevated him to superstar status.
When he goes out there and he goes to work, you know that he's there for you. He's a team guy, and he's always, not that he's a motivational speaker, but he's always motivating everybody else to work harder, achieve more, and to strive for success.
It's not about him, it's about the team. And he shows up to work every day, he follows the rules, He's not breaking ranks and trying to get special treatment. And that sets the tone for everybody else on the team.
It's always leading by example. He always tries to do it the best he can, to be the best he can be. And so with that example, he expects the people around him to follow and be the best they can be.
I think where I got my work ethic from, again, that, you know, my mother, I seen at times, you know, her working 2 jobs. You know, I see her in the morning and I see her at night, you know, because throughout the day, she was trying to make a living to put food on the table for us, to put clothes on our back, you know. So, you know, I always felt like if my mom can work 2 jobs, you know, doing something she really didn't like doing, but she had to do to provide for the family, something that I love doing, playing football, why not work as hard as I possibly can doing it and try to be the best that I possibly can be?
He leads this team in a very quiet, egoless, selfless way. It's been his faith, it's been his family, and it's been football. And I would say in that order. The course he follows, the dedication that he has to his family, they're all great examples of Christ.
The 14-2 Chargers had the best record in the NFL entering the playoffs. Tomlinson had 17 first-half touches as the Chargers built an 11-point lead. In the second half, he had only 8.
If we could go back in time, we'd have just ran the ball. Just probably 50, 60 times that game.
Patriots have won the game. It is a shell-shocked crowd here as the sun sets in San Diego.
The best team that I had ever been on, first round bye, #1 seed, done. They ran out to the middle of the field and started dancing. In fact, they started doing the Sean Merriman lights out dance. I felt like I need to make a statement for my team. I'm the captain, and I'm not gonna let you dance on our field.
Any incident where opponent team come in and start dancing in the middle, I mean, we all know that's a sign of disrespect.
Don't defile our symbol. We don't need that. And he was the point man, and he stood up for the team.
I can't sit there and watch that. And so, yeah, I was very upset. And just the fact of the way they showed no class at all, absolutely no class, and maybe it comes from their head coach.
For years, Tomlinson had the most popular name in San Diego.
There has never been a greater Charger. They were one of the 2 worst teams when he first got there, and then they became a team that perennially was in the playoffs.
I don't know that people in San Diego can appreciate this young player enough. Absolutely one of the great talents that will ever play this game.
And combine that with the charity things he did.
This bear need a home.
You see him after every single game, take pictures and talk with the kids that were a part of his foundation.
He was San Diego. When I think of San Diego, I think of the beaches, and I think of LaDainian.
I remember I would go to some football camps and he showed up. It was like, you know, Michael Jordan was there, and it was the greatest thing ever.
So, Reggie.
I got a chance to work out with him. I thought that I was in shape and I was going to be able to hang with him. I ended up throwing up in the workout. It hit home for me, and this is where I need to get to if I want to make it to the NFL, if I want to be one of the best.
LT's always been, I'd say, a quiet leader. He lets his actions speak for themselves.
In 2007, the Chargers had a new head coach, Norv Turner.
Norv Turner sold himself for the job by saying in part, if you want to win a championship, you've got to develop Phillip Rivers. It's a quarterback's league. And so LaDainian's role became diminished somewhat.
In the 2007 playoffs, for the first time in his career, Tomlinson's importance to the Chargers was questioned.
Somebody hit me right in my knee. and my knee buckled. I've never been hurt like this, never had anything like this. Find out that I have a MCL sprain. It's a 4-week injury.
Tomlinson was out. So was Phillip Rivers with a torn ACL. Finishing the game with backups, the Chargers upset the Colts.
I'm thinking the championship game is next week. I'm gonna play. I'm absolutely gonna play. There's no way that I'm not gonna play.
San Diego's opponent, an old nemesis, the 17-0 Patriots.
They dance on your field. They disrespect. They God's gift to the football world. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Both Rivers and Tomlinson started the game, but Tomlinson's day lasted just 2 drives.
At that point, I knew Michael Turner is a better running back than me right now with this knee injury that I have. And so I decided to pull myself, and of course I took a lot of heat for that.
You're a big-time player, and big-time players must play in big-time games. I know a lot of people will get LT a pass and say, you know, we don't know what happened. But right now, as his teammates, as fans looking on, you got to come. It must be a surgery for him to get a pass on this one.
Going into that game, Phillip had come off the surgery, which no one at the time had announced, and the team had really not spoken much about LT's injury. Obviously, we don't want to give our opponent any kind of information that could help them, which in retrospect didn't help LT's situation, because when he tried to go and couldn't go, people were a little surprised by that. Internally, we weren't.
People want to juxtapose his situation with that of Phillip Rivers. And they say, well, Phillip Rivers had knee surgery the week of that game, and he played the entire game. How could LaDainian not do it? How could he not be on the field?
I was in a position I didn't have to make many cuts, you know, and I was going to be able to stand in that pocket and throw. And LT's game is based off cutting and running and all that. So 2 completely separate deals, and it was blown completely out of proportion.
And people say, well, he was sulking. And maybe he was. But you have to understand how much it hurt him not being able to be out on that field.
The following year, another postseason injury, another season-ending defeat.
I can remember thinking that I was cursed or something, like it wasn't meant to be, to play in the playoffs and be healthy. I don't think anybody can know the frustration. All my life, all I ever wanted to do was play football and win a championship. And to feel so helpless, you know, to be at this point where we have a chance to do it, and again, I can't do anything about it. I can't play.
In 2009, San Diego entered the playoffs 13-3 and winners of 11 in a row.
You ain't got the horn no more. You ain't got the horn. Come on.
Tomlinson was held to 24 rushing yards, and the Chargers lost once more.
As I exited the field, I remember thinking, that's it.
1 month later, Tomlinson was a free agent.
The Chargers released LT, and I was shocked. Not because of what he was able to do that year or what he could have did for us in the future, but what he had done up until that point, how he changed the culture, how he changed the way people viewed San Diego. You always felt like it was always a spot here for him, no matter what. He meant that much to San Diego, but at the same time, I understand the business side of it.
It is a business, unfortunately, when it comes to decisions like that, and it was a very, very difficult decision. He truly was the heart and soul of our franchise for all the years that he was here. It was very emotional, and it's a hard thing.
Sorry. It's funny because I was all prepared. Said I wasn't going to do this.
After 9 star-studded seasons, but another playoff disappointment, the San Diego Chargers deemed LaDainian Tomlinson expendable.
Like, somebody almost questioned his competitiveness, which was an absolute joke. I mean, I knew he could still play. There was no doubt he could still play. This guy's special. I mean, that's the word that comes to mind when you talk about LaDainian. I mean, he is special. The type of person he is, the kind of attitude he has, the kind of skills he has.
He's been outstanding. He's a great kid, boy. No, he doesn't have the top-end speed that he once had. I'll tell you what he's going to bring. He's going to bring very positive leadership to this football team. He's got something to prove, boy.
And we were having a meeting during the season. He wanted to come up and speak in front of the group. He read this awesome Vince Lombardi quote. Even reading that passage from Vince Lombardi, his passion was just seeping out of him. And it was just dead silence in that meeting room where guys were like, whoa, this guy loves football.
From that point on, he became the leader. You know, sure enough, on game day, everybody knew when they came out, they're going to rally around one guy. That's LaDainian Tomlinson.
What moves LaDainian Tomlinson makes on the linebacker? Inside, outside, Olay!
He's got a chance to go over 1,000 yards in the last game. And I said, well, you know, let's get you that 1,000 yards. And he goes, you know what, let's just keep me fresh for the playoffs, and then I'll be ready to roll. And he was.
A 23-yard gain by LaDainian Tomlinson. He ran through at least 3 Indianapolis Colts. Handoff, Tomlinson leaps into the pile, and he's hit right at the goal line. He's in! Touchdown! Tomlinson runs right, walks into the end zone. Touchdown, Jets! And the Jets win it here in Indianapolis.
Next, Tomlinson's nemesis. Best record in football. And a team that beat the Jets by 42 points 6 weeks earlier.
Listen to me. Listen to me. They say it can't be done. They say we have no chance. Hey, let me tell you something. Any man can be beat on any day. You hear me? That ain't invincible. Any man can be beat. You gotta be willing to die today for it, though, man. You gotta be willing to die today. I am. What about you? What about you?
He wasn't going to be a huge part of the plan, we didn't think, going into the game, but he had a different look in his eye. We couldn't keep him off the field.
LT makes the catch, reaches, pylon, is he in? Yes! Touchdown, Jets! The Jets win it in style! The Jets celebrate in the Patriots ball yard.
You know, I really felt like it was redemption.
All right, LT, let's get him in here, baby.
The 2011 season opener. For New Yorkers, this wasn't just any game night. It was the 10th anniversary of 9/11. Tomlinson helped give New York an uplifting victory. 8 months later, he made his first trip back to San Diego to help that city heal after the death of Junior Seau.
He was unsure how he was going to be received by the fans at this celebration of life, and there are almost 20,000 people there.
When I walked in the stadium, the fans gave me a standing ovation. I quickly remembered that I was home, you know, that this was, you know, my football home. San Diego.
What I'd like to do is ask LT to come up to make this official and sign a new contract.
And all the hoopla and all the fireworks on the outside about how he left and how it happened and in New York and all of that, I always felt like he was going to end up a retired Charger and still be thought of as he should be, as one of the greatest Chargers ever, one of the greatest running backs ever.
Everybody can't win a championship. You really can't. I guess he wants to. I was talking to who I consider a father figure, Coach Marty Schottenheimer. He said, LT, there was many days that you had, that your friends had, that your family had, that were championship days. Just because you didn't win the ultimate Super Bowl championship, I know we got many memories that we can call them championship days.
It's not often a player comes along who defines your team, and the NFL for that matter, for the better part of a decade, like LaDainian Tomlinson. I remember the Friday before the 2001 draft like it was yesterday. John Butler, our GM at the time, said we had a deal with Atlanta that included switching first-round picks. I said, great, and then asked him who he liked with the 5th pick. And I clearly remember him telling me, well, there's this great running back from TCU who could help us immediately. It's funny now, but I also remember asking, is he any good? And I remember that John said, yeah, he's going to be something special. So it's with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce the newest Charger, LaDainian Tomlinson, a Charger now and forever.
Thank you. What an awesome day this is. It's been a long journey, to say the least. You know, and obviously when you stand up and announce a retirement, there's so many people that needs to be thanked. And, you know, first off, obviously the Chargers, Dean Spanos and this organization is the first people that, you know, obviously like Dean said, I reached out to. Is because when we had a conversation, when I got ready to leave the Chargers, Dean said to me, would you consider coming back and retiring as a Charger? And without question, you know, I said yes, because I always felt like I was a Charger. You know, I want to thank my coaches as well as some great teammates I had. You know, my offensive line, you know, I always felt like, you know, they were my best friend. And, you know, I used to always do things for them just out of the goodness of my heart, because they never got any credit for it, but they battled their butts off in the trenches. And I really appreciated them. And that's why I always tried to make them feel special whenever I could. And so I want to thank all my teammates, you know, obviously my quarterbacks, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, guys I played with, guys that really knew how to play the game, very passionate about winning. And that's why we won, because we had very passionate guys that wanted to win. You know, my family is speaks for itself. You know, my mother here is here with me, and you know, she pushed me as a young kid. You know, she realized that I had a dream at a young age of playing in the National Football League. And what she did as a parent, she sacrificed, just like parents do. She sacrificed for a kid who had a dream to play in the National Football League. You know, my wife, LaTorsha, who has been with me, you know, since college, and has hung in the good days, the bad days, the days where we don't feel like talking after a loss, after practice. You guys know what I'm talking about. A lot of my teammates, ex-teammates are out here. You know, she's stuck in there with me and always encouraged me as well. And I really appreciate her because, you know, she pushed me. And she also kept me humble. There were times where I started to get the big head, yeah, I'm the MVP, and all this kind of stuff. But she said to me, you know what? You still my husband, and you still got chores to do at home. You still got kids. And so, you know, all that puts it in perspective, honestly. I've been playing football 20-some years. And so at some point, it almost seems like school every year where You sacrifice so much, and there's so much that you put on the line mentally and physically with your body, everything. And so today, I take the words of Junior Seau. I feel like I'm graduating. I really do, you know, because I got my life ahead of me. I'm healthy. I'm happy with a great family. And, you know, I'm excited to now be a fan and watch you guys play.
LaDainian Tomlinson's career as a Charger speaks for itself, averaging nearly 1,400 yards a year and finding the end zone 153 times in a Charger uniform. The 2006 MVP was a lock for Canton, Ohio. In his first year of eligibility, LT was voted into the Hall of Fame.
And I'm so happy, overjoyed. So many different emotions are running through my body.
Hearing his name announced as a Hall of Fame inductee at the Super Bowl was the beginning of a roller coaster ride for LaDainian, one that wouldn't stop until August in Canton, when he'd finally get to put on the gold jacket.
I think when I put on the gold jacket, because I think that's when it'll kind of start to hit home and it'll get so real for me.
He's here in Canton, he's getting a yellow jacket, so I think this is the ultimate, the epitome of what it means to play football. When I think about how hard he's worked from the time he was, very small, to now, it's almost indescribable. But I'm just so proud of him, I'm so happy for him.
When it came time for LT to decide on who he wanted to present him in the Hall of Fame, the choice was clear. The same man that led him through the trenches and helped him achieve his greatness on the field, fullback Lorenzo Neal.
Since I played fullback, I know the sacrifice you have to be a selfless player, to block for other guys to get the credit, and those guys are gonna get the credit. Lorenzo was phenomenal. I felt like it was only right that the guy that blocked for me on all those touchdown runs, those record-breaking runs, that he should, in my biggest moment going into the Hall of Fame, he should be the one to lead me into the Hall of Fame.
He said, let me talk to you, and pulled me to the side and getting to talk. I'm just talking about a career and just talking about how grateful he was to be selected to the Hall of Fame, and just to, he was honored, and it was that moment. And then continued to talk, and he said, I want you to do it. I said, do what? He said, I want you to introduce me. And I was like, you sure? Me? And I was just taken back. I was humbled, I was shocked, I was surprised, I was speechless. And you just have a man who says, no, I want you to do it. And he could have picked hundreds, thousands of people that could have done it, that probably had a huge impact on his life. Great Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, 3 Hall of Famers that probably gonna be first ballot, and chose me.
LT is the 32nd running back to enter the Hall of Fame in the modern era. He is second only behind one man in touchdowns on that list, a man LT watched and idolized growing up near Dallas.
I grew up in Texas, so I was a big Cowboy fan, and I was a huge Emmitt Smith fan. And so he's kind of my guy that I've gotten to know over the years, and we've become pretty good friends. And so having a chance to spend some time with him and join the class with him, being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, man, it's truly an honor.
Fate has a way of surprising a lot of us, because we never know when you may have an encounter with someone that can truly influence or impact your life.
Hall of Fame weekend is a time for legends of the game and fans alike to celebrate the game of football. Thursday begins with an autograph session from the class of 2017, followed by the Hall of Fame game that kicks off the NFL preseason. Friday is the gold jacket ceremony, where the enshrinees receive their symbols of their exclusive fraternity. But Saturday is the highlight of the weekend. The enshrinement ceremony features speeches from the class of 2017 and is when their bronze statues will be revealed to take their place among the greatest of all time.
Ladies
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting LaDainian Tomlinson for enshrinement into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Saturday night is the signature event of the Hall of Fame weekend. The class of 2017 takes their place among football's elite during the enshrinement ceremony. But earlier in the day, the city hosts a massive parade to celebrate the event. More than 200,000 spectators will fill the streets of downtown Canton to welcome the new class and returning members of the Hall of Fame. It's a time when former foes get to reflect on their careers.
He was the ultimate running back. I mean, there's a reason why he broke as many records as he did.
Man, it's special. You know, LT's a hell of a back. I knew he was going in, so, you know, to be able to join him and be his classmate, it's awesome. We're always going to be connected in that way. I'm a San Diego kid. Obviously, he's a Charger. So when he came into this league, I had a chance to watch him for a long time, and I appreciate his work.
And when old friends can reunite.
But with LT, they didn't hit a home run. The organization hit a grand slam, and they both won. And today is an exciting day for me, exciting day for LaDainian. This whole week's been exciting for me. He was an unbelievable running back. He's an unbelievable citizen. He's an unbelievable role model, arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest running back that played the game. Lightning in the bottle. Couldn't have went to a better place.
All there was left to do was to deliver the speech, something LT had been working on for months prior, and had so closely guarded that no one, not even his family, knew what he was going to say.
If this was my last day on earth, and this my final speech, this is the message I'll leave with you. The story of a man I never met, my great-great-great-grandfather George. 170 years ago, George was brought here in chains on a slave ship from West Africa. His last name, Tomlinson, was given to him by the man who owned him. Tomlinson was the slave owner's last name. What extraordinary courage it must have taken for him to rebuild his life after the life he was born to was stolen. How did he reclaim his identity, his dignity, when he had no freedom to choose for himself? I grew up on the land of a former slave plantation. And although I didn't know this as a child, it is where my great-great-great-grandfather tilled the soil. A few years ago, I visited that same plantation in Central Texas with my family and stood in the slave quarters where he lived. It's now named Tomlinson Hill. My name began with the man who owned my great-great-great-grandfather. Now, it's proudly carried by me, my children, my extended family. People stop me on the street because they know me as LT, the football player. But after football, people have begun to recognize me as LaDainian Tomlinson. Not simply for what I did as a football player, but for who I am as a man. The family legacy that began in such a cruel way has given birth to generations of successful, caring Tomlinsons. I firmly believe that God chose me to help bring two races together under one last name, Tomlinson. I'm of mixed race, and I represent America. Football is a microcosm of America. All races, religions, and creeds living, playing, competing side by side. Thank you very much. Thank you for this honor. God bless you.
LaDainian Tomlinson delivered one of the most captivating and moving speeches in Hall of Fame history. Standing in front of a nationwide audience in his long-awaited gold jacket, LT got to tell his own story in his own words. His children's children will one day be able to see what kind of person he was by the emotion and poignancy of his words that will live on forever. Because of this, the story of a Texas boy who made it to the Great Hall of Fame in Canton will always live on. LaDainian officially reunited with the Chargers this summer as a special assistant to the owner. LT will head the community engagement efforts of the franchise and has already been spreading his message of healthy living, positive self-esteem, and the importance of education to local youth.
You can see where he's looking to the challenge of the second part of his life. He's got a wonderful wife and 2 wonderful children, and he's done a lot of successful things in his life, and he's looking forward to this next challenge.
It's the next chapter in the story of LaDainian Tomlinson, a story of what it means to be the very best on the field and in the community.
That was when I